Get my background. There we go. All right. The astro weather is complete. As we see the sun slowly but surely rise over the surface of Mars. Welcome to another edition of the astro weather. It is the 20th of January. And we are now officially in Aquarius. How does it feel? All you crazy, kooky, wild, eccentric, mad geniuses out there born under the sign of the water bearer, I raise my morning mug of coffee to you. And what a fine brew of instant coffee it is this morning. It's organic. It's organic. I'll say that much. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are astrologically and where we are going to be on Sunday, because that's the new moon. And that's also the beginning of Chinese New Year, which for all of you astute esoteric agents, students of the esoteric arts and practices, the arcana, you know it's the year of the water rabbit. So we are swimming into the brand new Chinese New Year. And at the top of the show, I'm wishing everybody a great Friday and a great weekend to go along with. It should be a good social weekend. All right, let's take a look at where we are now. I need my coffee to kick in. All right, here we go. That balsamic moon right there, just moving past Mercury. This is an aspect of memory. Memory. What are you here to do? What are you here to do? What kind of purpose will give your life meaning and structure? And what have you not achieved? What have you not done? Where do you think you've fallen short? This is the aspect. This is the general energy for the morning, because here the moon is in the position of surrender, right? The balsamic moon disseminates. It lets go. It releases. So here we're releasing memory. We're releasing memory, but not in a way where we're losing our ability to remember where we put our car keys. But it could be one of those times where you're sitting around and maybe it's casual Friday and you're looking around at your surroundings and asking yourself, how did I get here? And why did I choose this path? Or how did this path choose me? It's kind of an important moment here, right? Because it's all connected into this Pluto conjunction coming up with the balsamic moon, where emotions can get very intense, but there's also the potential for being able to let go. Now, with Pluto, the letting go process is different than with Neptune. With Neptune, sometimes you just have to surrender, and you can't swim against the tide, using a Neptunian metaphor. But with Pluto, the switch is off and on, right? There's an on and there's an off. So as we move into Saturday, tomorrow, when the moon moves into conjunction with Pluto, that on-off switch is available. So if there's something that, I mean, this can even be about some form of habituation too. Something that you do on a daily basis, but you need to just like, I've got to change this, whatever this is. Because the other thing too is that with the moon coming in and then conjuncting Pluto, it also moves into sextile over here with Jupiter. So what do we know about Jupiter in Aries? It's new, right? It's fresh. It's the shoots of plants fruits, vegetables coming up through the earth. And by the time we get to Sunday, there's a lot of energy with this new moon, right? We have the conjunction with the sun. We come in and we have the nice sextile to Juno, the sextile to Jupiter. A lot of enthusiasm in the air on Sunday. Tomorrow is a kind of a tricky day. And sometimes with the moon, you know, things happen without our own volition. The moon tends to be, to some extent, reactive. Well, the sun is proactive, right? The moon is Dionysian, the sun is Apollonian. So it feels like events that are lunar related kind of occur on their own. Although that's not always true, because we've done something to bring those events or bring those experiences into our lives. So this is the culmination of a 30-day cycle, right? This is the culmination of the 30-day cycle. When we had the last balsamic moon, which would have been in the sign of Sagittarius, and they're all related to some degree. You know, with the balsamic moon in Sagittarius, your people are letting go about philosophical and ideological and to some extent religious pieces. So if you were, let's say, a dyed-in-the-wool, hardcore, make America great again, you've heard Donald Trump talk about the vaccines for the third time, or I think maybe, I'm not sure about the exact timing, but when he might have come out and said, well, the reason why the Republicans lost is because of Roe v. Wade, right? That's one of those instances of that moon where you're like, oh, I got to let go of that. As much as it pains me, because this is something that I still believe in, but maybe not in the same way, I need to let go of that, right? That's how that Sagittarian balsamic moon operates. Also, a sense too of freedom and feeling like, you know, I can't do anything right now. I'm stuck for now. So let me let go of my restlessness. Let me surrender into the moment so I can just be here now. And that's really what the balsamic moon is about. It's about being here now. And a sober assessment of what you've accrued, what you haven't accrued, and how you're going to successfully let go of those things. But unlike the Sagittarian balsamic moon, this area gets much more intense because of the conjunction with Pluto. So tomorrow is kind of, well, it's actually more today. Today, you're really kind of seeding the bed for, you know, this is again another agricultural metaphor for letting go, right? And then tomorrow, the cauterization process can occur. So if you're in a relationship that is not emotionally rewarding or fulfilling, this is a very sober assessment with the moon here in this position. Also, you're dealing with, you know, a lot of us are parents that are aging. And what are we going to do with them? And how are they going to respond to the next chapter in their life? All of this is contained within this conjunction, this kind of wide conjunction now, getting much closer tomorrow. So I believe the sober assessments are at hand, because Sunday, there's this sense, again, there's this sense of newness in the air on Sunday. There's a sense of, wow, I just went through something fairly intense. Now, I'm not going to label this balsamic moon the dark night of the soul, although for some people, it could take on that connotation. It'll affect a lot of the cardinal signs, especially if you're a Cancer. So Cancers, pay close attention. Cancer and Cancer rising, pay close attention to what you're feeling this weekend. In your case, because Cancer tends to be a very deep, intuitive, and emotional sign, this moon may actually call you to not be so emotional and to not be so invested in what you're feeling, your position, and even where you live. And this is an interesting piece because Cancer, as a sign, in my experience, tends to hold on to things, people, mementos, memories. And there's something good about that, right? Like Cancer is the keeper of the flame and the family traditions. But it's also a sign that can be really challenged when it's time to let go of those things. This is one of those periods where the letting go can be both more dispassionate and intense. So a little special weekend prescription for the moon children. Remember back in the 60s and the 70s, Cancer was known as moon children. I'm a moon child. And somewhere along the way, it kind of crawled back into its crab and became Cancer again. Venus, Saturn today squaring off against Uranus still, but they're moving away. They're separating. So a lot of the this is really interesting from a mundane perspective, mundane astrology being out there in the world. To me, this is the beef between Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro, right? It's all about media and contracts. Venus and Saturn, that is a contract. And Uranus being the technology that allows these people to build their own networks, which is kind of fascinating to watch. When you look at, and I'm not here to promote the Daily Wire, so please, and I'm not even here to promote Steven Crowder, so don't color what I'm about to say by some kind of affiliation or approval of either entity. Okay, but it's fascinating to watch these entities at this time. And when we go back in time and look at the beginning of television, we see the genesis of ABC and NBC and CBS, these networks. We're kind of seeing that now in a different kind of way. And that for better or worse, the Daily Wires or fill in the blank, these are kind of the nascent networks for the world of tomorrow. But they're in a beef, and you can see it right here. So I think on a mundane level, we can see that. And on a personal level, the square is still there. But Venus is moving closer to Saturn. You're getting into that really, really, really tight conjunction. And we'll get into that even closer on Sunday. And we're in it together forever. Oh boy, what do we do next, right? That's kind of the Venus Saturn conjunction. The other thing too is from, again, a mundane perspective, this gets right into things like the heart of Davos, right? Where they're making deals and contracts and agreements so that they can shape our new world, our new and better world, built back better, right? The partners of the reset. But, they've run into some bumps over the past few days. I'm not going to get into too much of that, but if you've been paying attention, you can certainly see it. Mercury's direct, and it's moving into closer square with Chiron. So this is another aspect today that is a little tricky. We've got these squares to Jupiter, square to Chiron, and here it's like, if you can embrace a type of stoicism today, it could be quite good, right? It could be very, very good. It could allow you to move through this time whereby, just remember, by Sunday, if you can clear your slate by Sunday, not everybody can do that because some of these slates in our lives are huge, but if you can clear your slate by Sunday, that's a really great time. So I can't stress enough about Sunday. And if you want to start something new, I don't think there's a better time. So if we've got Just about every planet is direct, with the exception of Uranus, and that's coming soon. So theoretically, there are no celestial impediments for you to move forward. Even though Uranus is the ruling sign of Aquarius, don't let that bother you. Don't let it get you down. So if you want to launch something, Sunday is your day. Now, if you need feedback on the thing that you're going to launch, which perhaps some people do and will, with these squares, you might not like hear what the feedback is. Try to be dispassionate. Think about it. Say, you know what? That makes sense. Or, you know what? They're full of shit. I know what I need to do. Right. But there is kind of an overall feeling, again, of being exposed on an emotional level here. But the counterbalance is the stoicism. Now, sometimes in life, you just got to say, fuck it, right? And with these squares coming in with Jupiter and squaring Chiron, nothing left to lose. I'm up to here. I'm going to let it rip. That may not always be a bad thing as long as you don't hurt somebody, because that might be what you need to do in order to let go. And then coming in with that Moon Pluto conjunction, she said, yeah, you know, I did burn that bridge. I burned that sucker down. But then we get to the new moon on Sunday, and it's like, you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm going to live with this choice. All right, let's take a quick look at the energies on Sunday. Sunday. The only tension we still have in the air, really, is the ongoing drama, but the drama that's separating with Venus and Saturn. But you can see on Sunday that Venus-Saturn conjunction, tight. Right? We're in it together forever. And now what? This is really an interesting aspect. It's when sometimes when you're in a relationship with a friend, or you have a friend, and that friendship turns into a relationship, it's a real roll of the dice. Sometimes people are like, wow, why did we wait so long? We were orbiting around each other for such a long time. Why did it take so long? Well, there's this and there's that, and there's this and there's that. Sometimes that can happen. The other time, or the other example of that experience would be, we were really good friends and we fucked it up, right? There's some of that energy this weekend. What do you want to do? What do you want to do with people in your life that you exist at a very close friend level, but that closeness gets really close? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to take it? It's a very interesting energy. Of course, we have Mars moving straight ahead. And this is why I think Sunday is a great day for new projects. Look, we have the new moon, we have it coming in, we have a trining Mars, there's enthusiasm, there's a kind of a can-do, I can do this. Maybe you get by with a little help from your friends with Aquarius. So I think Sunday is just absolutely top-notch. We still have this square with Mercury going on, and it's squaring Jupiter and squaring Chiron. I think that energy can be good for self-examination. I think it can be good. You can figure out, well, where are my flaws? Where are my deficiencies? If it's related to a new project, I think it's reasonable to have a kind of a review, of your whatever it is you're doing, right? A test run, and figure out what the flaws are. I think that's where this Mercury square could be quite good. The challenge is the blind spot with Jupiter, and figuring out that, or thinking you've got to figure it out. Well, full speed ahead. I'm not going to worry about that. If you're going to start something new, make sure you work out these kinks And as Mercury moves closer in trine with Uranus, there are solutions that are available that are outside the box, or you may not be able to see them from your current perspective. If you feel like you're stuck, boxed in, get out, do something, change your routine, try to find another perspective. And I think you can come up with it. And then the last piece here is the Mercury in conjunct on Sunday with Mars. Now, I've really hyped it up. I've lathered it up. And you may say, Robert, I don't have anything new. I don't know what to do. What am I going to do? Well, this is the Mercury Mars in conjunct. And sometimes all you got to do is act, right? And I think that's another part of the energy on Sunday. Act. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump in the pool. It was kind of like 2 weeks ago when I decided to do this, when I decided to come here at 8 o'clock every day. It's like, do you have a plan? Kind of. Do you need to do X, Y, and Z to make your space look better, or any technical improvements? Like, no, I'm just going to do this. That is the in conjunct with Mercury Mars. It's like, I'm going to make the leap. I'm going to make the leap. I'm going to jump across the chasm of the chart and land right on Mars. Mars is the lead dog right now, right out in front. A lot of activity, very stimulating weekend ahead, and take full advantage of Sunday. Love the energy on Sunday. All right, we got a star of the day, a slightly controversial one, but one who took up a lot of headspace in our lives for about 3 years. And I had a lot of choices today. Today was one of those days where, I could go in this direction. What about Bill Maher? What about David Lynch? Boy, is he Aquarian. And even Bill Maher, he's kind of a contrarian. You're right at the beginning of the sign, you can really see figures like that first decan of the sign. You can really see, the unfiltered Aquarian nature with a lot of these people. And today's star of the day, for better or worse, falls into that category. And it is none other than Jeffrey Epstein. If I had one of those AM talk shows, I'd have a button. You press a button, you get the little sound effect. I think the button would be boo, jeers, right? I've always found Epstein's chart to be really fascinating. We don't have a time. So when I don't have a time for a chart, I usually use a sunrise chart or a noon chart. And in Epstein's case, because he is a public figure, I always go with the noon chart. So he's clearly 0 Aquarian. And what do I say about his Aquarian? The thing about Epstein is, if you read the accounts of him, like, he's like a super friendly guy. When you go back and watch some of these videos, like there's a famous video with him and Trump, and they're at a party. I think maybe it's Mar-a-Lago or something like that. And Trump is basically telling him, hey, look, we're a couple of foxes in the hen house, and he's cracking jokes with Epstein. And Epstein, he comes off as being awkwardly charming. Right? That to me would be the essence of his Aquarian sun. Now, he's got some challenges in his life, right? He's got the Sun Neptune square and the Sun Saturn square. And he's trying to define himself, number one, against his father, because Saturn's always the father, and his father's traditions and expectations. With the Sun Neptune square, there's a challenge, right? So Epstein could have gone straight. He could have had a straight and narrow path, being a math teacher at the school that Bill Barr's father ran. Was it Donald Barr? He could have done that, right? But here's where we see the temptation. the temptation of the Neptune square in conjunction, right, with the Saturn square. So he's going to elevate himself, but with Neptune, the means might not be as savory as they could be if he had just taken this Saturnian route, right? Here, Neptune, I believe, creates a form of temptation and the potential erosion of the self, right? Now, the other thing, and it's what I was about to say, debased values. But if you also look at the operation with Epstein and Maxwell, he was actually doing this too, right? Think of Saturn as being people in power, politicians, public figures, people connected to hierarchies, and the dissipation of their power and position through Neptune. So if we wanted to look at this from, say, a blackmail perspective, boy, now we have some interesting things to talk about. Now it's not just about Jeff Epstein, but it's about the figures, the people in power that he had a connection with. I don't think Jeffrey Epstein is a very trustworthy person, by the way. I don't think, but even with a fixed sign sun and his true node in Aquarius, and we all know the strange stories about his bizarre visions of cloning himself and injecting himself into the human species. That was part of their plan. And honestly, I don't believe that Jeffrey Epstein is 6 feet under. That's just my belief, right? But it's going to be interesting because this weekend, what are we going to have? We're going to have the new moon conjuncting Epstein's sun. Maybe we'll have some interesting things that'll be revealed about him. So what else does he have here? This is another aspect in this chart that I find really, in a lot of ways, fascinating, right? He's got this Venus-Mars conjunction in Pisces. And it's so close. And when you get into Venus-Mars, and I've talked about this before in a person, it does a couple different things. Number one, it elevates the masculine and the feminine. So a person like Epstein can at times look, and I've seen him with some facial hair, he can look pretty Mars. And other times he can look very Venus, kind of very soft and very feminine. But the other thing with Venus-Mars conjunctions is that they bring with it, I think, a strange charisma. And whatever you think of Epstein, if you look at some of the videos and pictures, he has a very odd charisma. It's very disarming in a lot of ways. And in his field, being disarming could be an asset for him and a considerable debit for others. Moon in Aries and squaring Uranus and squaring Mercury and squaring Chiron. To me, this is a moon that breaks with the conscience, right? It's going to break with the conscience. It's going to break with convention. Mercury in Capricorn is more do it by the book. Well, his moon in the cardinal Aries is like, now, and I'm going to break with this thing now. So not only is he a contrarian with his sun sign, he's also a bit of a contrarian with his emotions. Then he has Jupiter in Taurus, and there's money. Jeffrey Epstein had money. However he got the money, however he got it, Jeffrey Epstein had bucks. And that's a Jupiter and Taurus hallmark. The other thing, and whether he did it above board, and he did it with a sense of integrity, Jeffrey Epstein could make other people money. That's clear. Good at making other people money. Mercury, Jupiter trine, and maybe this gets into the extortion racket, possibly with Mercury. The other thing I found interesting about his chart with the Venus-Mars conjunction is if you put his Venus-Mars in Trump's 7th house, that's where they show up. And that means that he and the Donald did have a relationship. And at times it was cooperative with Venus. And then later it was not so cooperative when Trump decided that he was going to snatch a property from Jeffrey Epstein. Famous story. Epstein asks him what he thinks about this property. And Trump sort of, and then goes around and does the deal and takes it away from Epstein. There's a couple things about that. Number one, that's a power move, right? Trump is establishing in this relationship, I'm Mars, and you're Venus, right? And it's all over here in Trump's seventh house. And it also begins what I believe to be the erosion of their relationship. And there are plenty of pictures and videos of Epstein and Trump. Epstein hung out with a lot of people. To be fair, hung out with a lot of people. It's really interesting. The Capricorn stuff too is Ghislaine, right? Ghislaine Maxwell she's a Capricorn, so she's hovering around his sun and his Mercury and Chiron, and kind of orchestrating some of those Mercury Chiron. The whole thing with Mercury Chiron too. It's like if you extrapolate it and put it into an example of, we're going to record your activities and we're going to compromise you. That is a Mercury Chiron conjunction, especially in Capricorn, and dealing with people that are public figures, political figures, people in the limelight, and people with power. And the conductor of that is Lady Ghislaine, the captain of the submarine. And who knows where she is now, right? She's memory hold. They're both memory hold, slipping out the back door. All right. That is your star of the day, the infamous Jeffrey Epstein. I'll be back here on this channel at 12 noon with the Friday Farcast. And that's where I get to interview people, and they get to talk more than I do, which is great. And today I'll have my really good friend, Shauna Home, on with me. Shauna is a tremendous healer. And I don't say that about a lot of people, but she's a tremendous healer. And one of the reasons why she's tremendous is that she's worked on herself. She is the living embodiment of the things in her life that she needed to tackle, overcome, and she doesn't have a lot of holes in her game. So I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with her today. So please join us here at 12 noon. I think you'll enjoy it as well. All right, for the Astro Cat, who's apparently taking the morning off, I'm Robert Phoenix. A little bit long today, but it is the weekend. Have a great weekend. Jump into something new on Sunday with the Aquarian moon. If you've got project that you want to get off the ground and you're close to finishing, balsamic moon, put the pieces together and move forward on Sunday. Let's get it on. All right, we'll see you. Take care. Bye for now.